So this will be example 5. This will be the last example for 3.5. And what we're going to do here is we're going to find the distance from a point to a line. So the example here, it says find the distance from the point 10 to the line y equals negative x plus 3. So if you look at this graph right here, I want to find the distance from this point to the line. But what you have to remember is that anytime that you, if I can pull this up, if you're trying to find the distance from something, it has to be perpendicular. So recall that the distance from a point to a line is the length of the perpendicular segment from the point to the line. Now all that means is from this point right here has to be perpendicular. So I have to go from here to here because that's perpendicular. I can't just count 1, 2 or 1, 2. That's not going to work. So I have to go perpendicular from here to here. So what do I have to do? How do I find that? Well, the first step you want to do is find the slope of the line that they give you. So if we look at this, I know that the slope is -1. So let's just write that down. So the slope equals -1. Well, if I wanted the slope to be perpendicular, or the line to be perpendicular, if I want a line to be perpendicular off of this point, the line that's going to come off of this point will have a slope that's perpendicular to this. So what would be the line that's perpendicular? Well, opposite reciprocal would be 1. So if you think about it, if I went up 1 over 1, it would be that point right here. Up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So basically, it's this line right here. But what is that equation of that line? Well, we know a few things. We know y equals 1x plus b from what we were doing previously. Well, you do have a y value. It's 0. You have an x value, which is 1. So if we go ahead and find the b value, so 0 equals 1 plus b. If you subtract 1 from both sides, you get b equals -1. So I know b equals -1. So all you have to do now is go ahead and write that equation. So it would be y equals 1x minus b. Now if you recall from last year, if you want to find the solution to both of these lines, if I want to find out what this point is, I have to find the intersection point. So all I really have to do is take these two lines, y equals -1x plus 3 was the line that they gave us, and this was the line that I found. So you can use the substitution method and just take this value, if we know that this equals y, plug it into here. So what we'll do is go ahead and do that right now. So 1x minus 1 should equal -1x plus 3. Now to solve this, once you solve this out, I'll try to make this a little bit smaller and go ahead and do out our work. Add x to both sides. When you add 1x to both sides, 1x, you should get 2x minus 1 equals 3. Add 1 to both sides, you get 2x equals 4. Divide by 2, divide by 2. So your x value will equal 2. So now that we know our x value equals 2, so the x value we can say for sure now is 2. Now I have to find my, so if you look up here where I just wrote right there, x value is 2, need to find my y value. So all you have to do now is take that 2 and plug it back to either one of your systems, and I'll just take it and plug it into y equals x minus 1, so y equals 2 minus 1, so y will equal 1. So that point is 1, so 2, 1. Now you might ask, well, what was the reason to find that point? Well, if you look at it now, I know that this point and this point, they're perpendicular. So what you want to do now is you want to find the distance from this guy to this guy. Well, how do you do that? Well, if you said the distance formula, then you're spot on. So let's take the distance formula, and we'll try to figure out what the distance is from this point to this point. So I'm going to just go ahead and write my point, first point there, and my second point here. And you should always label them. So I'm going to call this one x1, and this one y1, this one x2, y2. Now we all know that the distance formula is the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1. And all we have to do now is plug the values in. So my x2 value, if you look up here, is 2. So it's going to be 2 minus 1. Don't forget we should put the squares up here. I forgot that, rushed through that. So this should be squared, and then this will be 1 minus 0 squared. So it'll be the square root of 1 squared plus 1 squared, which if we do that out, you'll just get the square root of 2. So the distance from point 1, 0 to 2, 1, or from, to answer your original question, from 1.0 to this whole line, will be the square root of 2. And you can approximate that if you want. You could say 1.4 units. So what I would like you guys to do is try a few of these. So let's go to page 159, and let's take a look at numbers 6 and number 7.